Hello folks, this is a section on the basics of jQuery, and I have already prepared a folder called jQuery intro, and you could call it anything really, and I used the command mkdir followed by the name of the folder, which is jQuery intro, and I did this in another folder. So when I have that folder opened up, I had already downloaded, and if you haven't seen this section on how and where to get jQuery.min.js, I hope you watched that video. So I kind of just put it here, and I'm going to use a command, and this depends on the operating system you're on. If you are on a Unix version, that means if you're using something like git bash on Windows, or item or terminal on Mac or Linux, you can create empty files just by using the touch command. And here I'm just going to quickly create a simple file that I'll call index.html. And when I type touch and press enter, you can see on my right that there is a very neat index.html file that has been created. Okay, so let's open it using brackets, and you may be using Sublime, you may be using Atom, and a bunch of other editors. Well, it's your choice. And in this case, I chose to use brackets. And right now, it points to another part of my window, which I'm just going to refocus so that you guys can be able to see. Okay. So drag this window to the other side, and this is what we shall be using for showcasing our application. All right, now let's open brackets again. There it is. When we double click and open the index file, I will use the emmet plugin to create for us very quick boilerplate code that we can use. And I'll change the title to jQuery Basics. And how do we include the jQuery file? There are several ways we can include the jQuery file. We can use a CDN, or a content delivery network. You'll see this in the show notes or the gist. And the other route is to use an external style sheet which is just relative. In this case, it's just relative to this index.html file. And the way we do that is we use the script tag, and then we'll just type jQuery.min.js, and that's it. Okay, now it doesn't do much for now, but we'll look at that shortly. So let's try to run this file. If you're in brackets, you can use the live preview just by clicking it. So let's click it. For some reason, it's not working. Alternatively, I can go in here and double click it. There it is, it opens up. Okay. All right, so live preview seems to be working now. Okay, let's provide some basic paragraphs. This is a paragraph, and quickly save. Okay, so let's see. Let's drag this back to our other window, and try to click this. So let's live preview. We'll drag it out and put it in the other window. All right. Now I want you guys to go to your developer tools, and this is what we shall use to quickly try out some jQuery. So we'll click this icon on the right and go to More Tools, and from More Tools we'll head to Developer Tools. Okay, Now JQuery provides a bunch of functions in JavaScript that you can use. Now when we just type the word JQuery, we get a function and an object returned to us. JQuery can also be used using another alias that I'll show you shortly. Now for JQuery has a premise around selectors. We select pieces of text on a browser and do something to it. Now, if we want to go into our jQuery console and type jQuery, and we open parentheses and say we want all the paragraphs. In other words, we can pick elements by their tag. And there you see it. It returns an array, an object of paragraph, or P. So just to reiterate, we can use the following. Let's create a simple folder. Or in this folder, let's create a simple application.js file. And here, I'll be using it to do some interesting conceptual showcases. So let's include this file as well, app.js, and when you refresh, nothing yet, right? So what we can do is, let's try to type console.log, and notice that I'm putting that selector in there. So when I type that, this is what it returns, the selection P. Well, we are lucky that we're just using a browser, and so load time is really fast. However, when using JavaScript or jQuery, we have to invoke a certain piece of line of code, and that starts with the $sign followed by the word document and ready, and then some in that function ready, we'll put function, and then square brackets, and then we can start to write our console.log, then we can query our paragraph. If you're a person who likes to be a little bit prettier, you can actually create maybe a variable that can store the query you have, and then later on use it like that. And then when you refresh, you still get that logged for you. Now when you click here, you can see what was selected, the length of the thing that was selected, and you can see its context or what is in there. And for some reason we're not seeing the text, but usually you will see some text. Quite a bit of stuff here. All these are functions that are attached to this paragraph. So what can we do with jQuery and with JavaScript? Using an ordinary document object, we can write. In other words, we can override something. When you click that, notice that this changed. This is an override. Right? Let me refresh. Goes back to normal. However, you can use jQuery to query an item and then change its text. This is different, for example. Right? Now, when I click enter, this should ideally change to that. This is different. To paragraphs, we can do a bunch of other things in a paragraph. For example, the append function adds certain items. Say we wanted to add another paragraph. We can type, this is another paragraph, and follow that with a closing P, and finally do that. And when you go and inspect the element, we will see that this is a paragraph that is inside a pre-existing paragraph. This is what we call appending, adding something to. You can also do the opposite. There's another one. If I click the up arrow button and get the previous code, I can change this to the prepend method. Now prepend is a bit different. It puts it just before the paragraph. Now when you go over here, we will notice that this was just put at the top. Yeah, it was just put at the top, just not added towards the end, which is what append does. And these are the kinds of manipulations that jQuery offers to us. There'll be several other things that we'll work on, but this seems a bit long, right? So that's why jQuery authors designed an alias, which is the $, which is the same thing. So if you type the $, followed by an enter, you'll see that they return the same object, the same function. This is much shorter than typing the whole word jQuery out. And then we can do the same things. We can query the paragraphs like that. We can add things to the paragraph. For example, if I wanted to add an unordered list, say food, and try to close it. Notice that, right? It added it to all the paragraphs, which is not what we fancy, right? So what we can do is, in the future, we can provide classes, right? We can maybe go into our index and say this paragraph has a class of maybe profile, right? And then type something like, this is a cool guy, right? All right. So you've seen that we can select things using tags. Okay, this selects every paragraph tags. We can also select things using their selectors like classes. So let's use that, right? And for example, this is a class. Notice the dot or the period. It always has to be put before the name of the class. You can't just fetch the whole class. And you can also be a bit specific if you like. For example, if you know it's a paragraph and it has a profile class, you can do that, right? And then it returns that for you. So let's clean up our code here. This is something we'll do later on or use later on, right? Okay, so that's a quick primer to jQuery. jQuery allows us to manipulate our HTML. It allows us to do things to text, maybe provide colors and a bunch of things. Let's look at a colored example, right? Now, if we wanted to transform profile or change its color, we could do something like that, .css, and say we want to change the color to something like red. And then when we press enter, that became red, right? And we can also change it back or remove a particular style from it. We can also get rid of things. So if we don't want profile anymore, we can query that profile and then type the command remove, and notice that it's removed. It's removed. You no longer see it anymore. It disappears. Okay, there are no paragraphs. We are left with maybe just one paragraph. So what if we wanted to hide that paragraph? What do you think we could do? If you guessed the function hide, you're right. Now that hides the paragraph. It's not visible, but it's actually there. And the thing that does that magic is the style tag display none. If you want to reshow the paragraph, all you have to do is just do the same thing, and then voila, your paragraph gets shown once again. Well, I hope this kind of opens up the possibilities with jQuery in terms of manipulations. You may not be seeing the ideas visibly right now, but in due time, you'll be able to see it. In the previous introduction, we mentioned that jQuery can be used to handle events. What do we mean by events? Suppose we provided a button, and in this button, we want some kind of greeting. So when we refresh this, we want it to be done in a way that when there's a greeting, something gets returned back to you, and it doesn't look pretty, so let's just add some styles to it. Color red. Let's see, let's change it. Yeah, maybe let's make it a bit aligned to the center. All right. Okay. All right. Anyone remember the code that aligns this to the center? Maybe it's a margin auto 0 pixels or 0 pixels auto or float. Actually, let's float it to the right. Okay, never mind that. So let's give it red. So we could attach something to listen to events such that when it's clicked, maybe it greets us or sends out some interesting alert. And one way to do that is, well, there's several ways to do that. We can provide an on-click method, and then later on, perhaps at the body or after the body, maybe provide a script. And in that script, we could have a function called greet. And that function could maybe say hi when clicked. This is using the on-click attribute. So when we refresh and click that, voila, we get an alert that says hi. Well, that's one route, using on-click attributes. The other route could be, we can pull this code out and put it in here, and maybe give this button a class or an ID called greeting, and head over to JQuery or JavaScript. Let's edit this a little bit, look a bit prettier. And what you could do is, we first of all seek the button. Now, what ID did we use? We used an ID of greeting, so let's look for a button called greeting. And this is kind of the same as just doing this, if you wanted to. Yeah, I just like being a bit explicit. So what happens is, we will attach a click event in here, and then this click method takes something called a function callback. A function callback. Now that's another function, and then we can invoke the function greet, which was designed somewhere else in this button. So when we refresh and click greet me, the same thing happens. You may say, okay, what if we wanted to make it a lot more friendlier? We could use the prompt, right? For example, name prompt. What is your name? And then maybe we will greet this person after the person inputs the name. Okay, so we can edit it a little bit. Save, refresh, click. We'll call it Victor. I'm going to say okay. Hi, Victor. We've been using alerts. We could also use console.log. We can refresh, we get alerted, say Victor, click OK, and down here we get a nice greeting of hi, Victor. So this is how we add click listeners. Another way to add a click listener, we'll comment this out, is to use the on method. On is another interesting method in jQuery. The first attribute is the kind of event it takes or is expected of this button, which is a click event. The next one will be a function callback, and then pretty much the same thing. can close it up, refresh. Okay, there seems to be an error. Uncode is not a function. Not really greeting. Okay, so for some reason jQuery on method doesn't seem to be returning anything. So let's take a look at the API, and I reckon we'll get some help about on. So we've selected, I've added a click, and well, if you can see the error before me, feel free. Okay, so for some reason we are getting that weird error. Disable this for the time being, just to debug. Click that, seems to work. Okay, look at the API. jQuery has an amazing API. All you have to do is visit api.jquery.com and you can browse through the different methods that are available. Well, for some reason, our user drill is not recognizing jQuery method. Which version of jQuery am I using? 1. Okay. Well, sometimes these things, yes, no wonder we're getting an error. It was added in 1.7. So I'm just going to, for the purposes of looking at this again, let's go over to the download file and let's get the latest jQuery. So I'll download the versions 2. And above. So let's download the compressed production version. I'll copy the address link and I'll use a feature called wget on my Unix. You guys can just right click and save as and then direct it to the right place. And I'll adjust the call to the jQuery file so that it's appropriate. There it is. And then when I refresh and I click that, it actually greets me. So guys, one thing you'll have to notice is versions are very, very important. If you choose to work with the latest version, stick to that. Otherwise, the documentation is also a bit helpful. It will tell you when certain things were added. The on method is relatively new, and the download of the jQuery I had earlier on was a bit dated. So this is how click listeners will work. You have something on your browser, and then you have another script, JavaScript script. All you have to do is select that item and attach certain things to it. So I haven't yet tested this, but let's test it again and see. When I refresh, click that, picture, click OK, and here is our sign. So it works. Well, thank you. In the next section, we'll take a look at other aspects of jQuery, and we'll end this by designing 2 things. 1, we'll design a shopping list application, which is pretty much kind of like a traditional app that people tend to write. Other apps in this area include to-do lists, and hopefully it will showcase the cool parts about jQuery. And then the second thing is a challenge. We'll be walking through a challenge of building a game that will listen to mouse events, moving of mice across your page, so you can drag and drop certain things, and kind of like a ping pong ball. So I hope you like the next couple of sections. See you around. Thank you.